Hello and welcome to Discovering the Dale Association. I'm Patricia Quirk, Marketing Coordinator at the Dale, and it's my pleasure today to bring you some good information about our hearing impairment program and some of the resources that we're able to utilize for people here in Niagara County. To tell us a little bit more about the program, I've asked Nancy Smith, our Program Coordinator at the Dale. She runs the Vision and Hearing Impairment Program, to speak a little bit about it, and then she's going to introduce Marie Ryan, who's an audiologist with Buffalo Speech and Hearing Center, to talk about some of the services that you offer to residents and clients and some of the things we're doing together as an agency. Nancy.
Thank you, Patricia. It's just a pleasure to be here and to have Marie with us. Just to let our viewing audience know, the Dale Association does have a program that I coordinate, and we help people with vision limitations, and we also help people with hearing difficulties, and part of that involves sometimes we have hearing screenings, and we try to do them on a frequent basis. And I know Buffalo Speech and Hearing Center has done a wonderful program for us, which involved education and hearing screening, and we're going to reschedule that in the spring. And we have area professionals who also offer their services for the same type of program. My role at the Dale is I will receive calls from the general public, and they will say to me, "Oh, I don't know what to do with my mother. She can't hear. I don't know. We can't afford a hearing aid." Or, "Well, we might be able to afford a hearing aid, but we don't know where to go. What kind of services are available?" So our role at the Dale is to educate people and let them know this is where you can go to get help. And that's kind of how I contacted Marie, because I had actually read an article in the Buffalo News that talked about the Buffalo Speech and Hearing and that they opened an office in Niagara Falls, and I didn't even know about that. So whenever possible, I try to connect with health professionals so that people that work through the Dale to get help get the kind of help that they need.
Wonderful. So Marie, you're an audiologist. Tell us what is an audiologist, and what is your role at the Buffalo Speech and Hearing Center?
An audiologist is really somebody who's trained in the ear, in hearing, in balance. There's a section of the inner ear called the vestibular system, which deals with balance difficulties. So an audiologist tests hearing. We look at people who have tinnitus or ringing in the ears, balance problems. It's a wonderful position. And my role at Buffalo Hearing and Speech Center, I've been there for over 16 years now. And boy, have we grown throughout that time. We've grown to 4 offices, with the Niagara Falls office being our newest one.
Wonderful. And do you treat patients of all ages?
We do. We start from newborns. We do the follow-up newborn hearing screenings. Right now in New York State, there's a newborn hearing screening program. So every infant who's born in New York State is screened for hearing. Any baby that will fail will be referred for a diagnostic test. So we do those, and we service all ages up to nursing homes that we go and we provide hearing aid services for.
Okay, so you actually make a house call into facilities.
Yes.
That's
yes.
wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about the services offered there. I know you said kind of birth and on up.
Yes, we do everything in audiology. We do basic hearing testing, which is so important for all different age groups. I'm finding more and more children are not tested in the schools. So we do the any type of age testing, and every age is a little different. So for a newborn, obviously you're not going to have them sit there and raise their hand. We do something called an ABR testing, auditory brainstem response. So it's very easy. We put some electrodes on the baby and we look for their brain's responses to sounds that they hear. When they're a little older, we might do something called a VRA, which is a child sitting in a booth and you have them look toward sounds. And then there's play audiometry, which is playing a game with them. You hear the beep, put the toy in the bucket. And then we do adults. We do auditory processing testing, which auditory processing disorder is essentially what your brain does with what you hear. So we do a lot of that. And then we have a wide range of hearing aid program. We have cochlear implant program, and we deal with all different technologies.
Wonderful. You said you have 4 offices throughout, is it throughout Western New York or just mainly the Buffalo Niagara region?
Well, we're growing. Our main office is on East North Street, right in the Buffalo Medical Park, right behind Anchor Bar. We also have one in the Southgate Plaza in West Seneca, in Amherst area, Williamsville area on Sheridan Drive, and then our newest is Niagara Falls. right on Elaine Drive. It's across from the Summit Park Mall.
Wonderful. That's very convenient. And I know that's probably where many of your clients would be referred.
That's true. That's really a central location. People that call me, they sometimes say, well, I just don't know where to go. What's convenient? I can't drive far. So it's wonderful to know that you're right by the Summit Park Mall. That's an area right by the airport, lots of free parking around the area, and your offices are right down off Williams Road on Elaine Drive, did you
Right,
say?
correct.
Yes, and that's a very central location.
Now, does that office offer different services?
We do. The only thing that's not offered at that office is cochlear implants. But we do all the basic hearing testing, the auditory brainstem response testing. We do auditory processing disorder. We do VNG tests, which is for balance disorders.
What kind of symptoms might somebody be looking for, aside from the obvious of people tell me that I'm not hearing them or my TV's on too loud? What other kinds of symptoms can a parent or an adult child pick up that might indicate an issue really with hearing?
One of the biggest signs of a hearing loss is difficulty hearing in background noise. Most people will start losing their high frequencies first. They're more susceptible to damage. Aging, medicines, noise exposure all affect high frequencies. Well, high frequencies is the clarity of speech. So when you're sitting in a lot of background noise and you're missing those consonants, those high frequency consonants, people will say, I hear you, but I don't know what you said. So difficulties in background noise, restaurants, weddings, parties, and then also on the telephone. Because on the telephone, people who start to lose their hearing don't realize it, but they're using visual cues. On the telephone, there's no visual cues. You're just solely relying on your ear. So those are some of the biggest things. And the other ones, the more common, what'd you say? Asking people to repeat themselves. Another big one is hearing it, but hearing it incorrectly. So if somebody comes in the door and says, oh, what was on the news? Oh, my shoes are in the hall. You heard something, you know they were talking, but you didn't hear exactly what was said. It's not clear.
Okay. And Nancy, with the clients that you refer or that you assist, what kind of behaviors or lifestyle changes might occur if they are starting to lose some hearing?
I think the biggest thing that I see is people will be in their homes living with family members, but they feel isolated because family members are no longer talking to them because they can't hear well. And the level of frustration,
isn't it?
oh, it just grows and grows. And the person with the difficulty is like it could be my kids just won't pay any attention to me. And when I do work with someone like that, I immediately try to refer them to an agency that specializes in hearing difficulties.
I imagine it would be very isolating and possibly depressing too if you're
Depression.
if you're
very
isolating,
common.
you're not getting out, you're missing that socialization component that's so important to healthy aging
Very much
and
so.
just health.
One of the frequent questions I get is, well, if I call their number, will they take my health insurance? And I try to let them know that once you call an agency, they'll usually take your health care information, your insurance information, and that would be very true at your agency.
Yes, correct. When you call for an appointment, we check your insurance and let you know if it's covered. We take almost all insurances, including New York State Medicaid, which is nice, and there is some hearing aid coverage through New York State Medicaid. So we take most insurances, and usually if you have a private insurance company, it's just the cost of if you were to go to the doctor. Everything else is covered for the hearing testing.
That's great. I know sometimes I hear people that have a hearing aid, they'll say, oh yes, I have a hearing aid, but I don't use it because it doesn't fit right or it doesn't seem to work right. Do you see people that come in with their current hearing aids, and is there someone in your office that can really help them make sure that that hearing aid's working best for them?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's actually so much that goes into a successful fitting of a hearing aid. The biggest thing is really work with your audiologist when you're learning about your options. Sometimes patients will come in and they'll say, well, my friend has this one and that's what I want. It might be good for your friend, but it might not be good for you. So there's different sizes, there's different levels of technology. Work with your audiologist and talk about your lifestyle to try to figure out exactly what is best for you. And all hearing aids in New York State come with a trial period. And the reason for that is you can't just sit in an office and decide, this is great, it's going to work for me. You don't know if it's going to help you out with your friends or watching television or at the senior center. You have to try it in those situations and make sure that that's the correct one for you. So we usually see patients at least twice during that trial period, just to make sure they're putting it in right, that it fits right, that everything is going to be successful for them. And also, when we first fit a hearing aid to somebody, we don't jump in and put all the power they need right off the bat, because most people lose hearing very gradually over time, and you forget what you're missing. And that's why a lot of people will say, well, I can hear fine, I don't have a problem. Their spouse might have something else to say about that, because that person is kind of forgetting what they're missing. So then if we were to give all the power right away in a hearing aid, they would go to McDonald's or Wegmans and say, oh, it's so loud, I don't like it. So we kind of work you up to your goal. So it is important to keep going back for those follow-up visits so that we can make sure that it fits correctly, that you're putting it in correctly, and that that's the right one for you.
And I have to tag in on that, because that's the biggest problem I see is once someone has a hearing aid, they won't go back for service, and they're afraid to. So I really encourage them, keep going back, work out your problems with your specialist.
And we've noticed that. And honestly, one of the biggest reasons is money. They don't want to have to pay to go back in. And that's why at Buffalo Hearing and Speech Center we actually have a 3-year warranty on the hearing aids. So any problems with it, if they need to go out and be repaired, or even just office visits, they're free for 3 years, so that you can just check it out and make sure. Sometimes after 6 months you might need a change in the programming.
That's really good to know, because if that's an issue of the cost being prohibitive, or they're just not using it, they're not wearing it the way they're supposed to use it, you need to really encourage them to get back in there and utilize all the services.
And I do think it's kind of a fear thing, not just cost, because they're afraid, oh, I'll go back in there and then they'll try and sell me another hearing aid, or I'll get this beautiful hearing aid and I won't know how to use it. And they don't realize that the more contact they have with their specialists, the better off they're going to be.
Definitely. And we've grown to other aspects of rehabilitation and hearing aids. In fact, we have an adjusting to amplification class that we have, because it's not just the person with the hearing aid that's going through the process. Their family members are too. And it's really nice to have a class where the person who has the hearing loss and is wearing the hearing aid can bring a spouse or a child or a friend and hear about, okay, how do you deal with a big Thanksgiving dinner? Where are you going to put the person with the hearing aid? What's the best place to put them so that they can really take part in the conversation? Or in a noisy restaurant, or if you go to a seminar, different things like that. So,
and do they make adjustments at that point? Can they make their own manual adjustments?
Oh, well, hearing aids have changed so much over the years. They're not like the old style ones. I remember my grandma, she used to get mad and say, I'm turning you off. You can't do that anymore. Hearing aids are completely digital now, so we program them on a computer. So when we test your hearing, we put your hearing test results into the computer, hook up the hearing aid, and that's how we program that hearing aid for that patient. So it is very specific and very personalized to each person. And there's automatic directional mics which can help with background noise. There's automatic volume adjustments. So there's really not an on and off switch or a volume like there used to be. It's really pretty easy. You put it in your ear, not much to worry about anymore.
Okay. And if it's fitted right, you don't even know it's there.
But it is important, as Nancy said, to continue to go every year for hearing testing. If your hearing's changed, it's like glasses. If you have glasses for the wrong prescription, they're not going to help you. Well, if your hearing's changed and your hearing aid settings haven't been changed according to that difference, you're not going to be successful. So it is very important to keep going for the follow-up visits.
Sure. Nancy, any tips for working with clients with a hearing loss? Just kind of simple things that the general public could be more sensitive to?
Well, I think I'm going to turn that back to Marie, because she's the specialist, and maybe start with the basics.
Yeah, you know, one of the biggest things, look at the person. Don't do, every day I hear somebody, a spouse saying, well, he can't hear me when I'm in the kitchen. Well, that's because you're looking at the dishes, you have the water running, and you're talking, and he's two rooms away. So the biggest thing is to stop what you're doing. Look at the person, catch their attention, call their name, let them look at you. Because as I said earlier, people with hearing loss start using visual cues. They start using speech reading. You know, and it's not just looking at the lips and knowing what the lips are saying. It's looking at the eyebrows. Are they arched up where it looks like they're asking a question, waiting for a response? All those things mean something. Also just being understanding, because when you're functioning with a hearing loss, it's a lot of work, and you can get a lot of fatigue. So if the person is not feeling well or is tired, they might not be hearing quite as good. Another thing is sometimes people can hear things, but their clarity maybe has been affected. So you can hear things, but it's not clear. Your nerves in your inner ear are distorting it a little. So if you keep saying the same thing, what's for supper, what's for supper, and they're not getting it, try rewording it. What would you like to eat tonight? And that might help tremendously also. Another big thing, people tend to talk like this. Make sure that you can see the person's face and their lips.
Okay. I know my own grandmother suffered a hearing loss my whole life. She had a hearing loss, and she was a talker like this. And so she kind of mumbled, but she really was missing so much of the conversation. I don't think she felt as though she should be participating. And it was interesting, she could only hear the youngest kids, the highest frequency, but she couldn't hear her adult children so much. So
that's interesting, because that's usually opposite.
The opposite. So my mom would always say, "Ask Grandma this," because my voice was higher at the time, and so it worked out well.
Well, as I said before, normally you lose your high pitches first. So when the wives come in,
and maybe she did, but you know, when I knew her, she had lost so much of the load.
Yeah, and we get a lot of wives who will come in and say, my husband can't hear me. Well, there's something to it.
Sure.
Females, young children's voices are higher pitched. So a man who comes in with a hearing loss might hear his male friends better than he hears his wife. And there really is something to that.
Sure,
So.
it's not just selective hearing.
Well, part that.
Physicality behind it.
Yeah.